I often get asked what modalities do I use in my couple session. And while I believe each couple is unique and not one size fits all, there is two that I am pretty fond of and that are my favorite and that I will often refer to, which is the Gottman method and the emotionally focused therapy. The Gottman method is the most researched and the most evidence-supported modality. And they often focus on the here and now, where if we have breakdown communications, I teach you the tools to communications. Where if there's a disconnections, I teach you the tools to the here and now in disconnection. Developed by Julie and John Gottman, and their research goes back 20 or 30 years, and they've been researching what makes a couple work and what makes a couple break up, and more often what makes a couple become happy, because just because someone is together doesn't mean that they're happy. So what's the difference between those couples that make it and actually have a happy marriage and those couples that break up? And of course, using the tools of communication and connection, how does that impact the couples that are on the brink of breaking up or on the brink of divorce? The other one of my favorites is emotionally focused therapy, where we're talking about attachment styles like avoidant attachment style or anxious attachment style. This is where we get to the deep in stuff, where we're talking about the core stuff that impact us as opposed to what's just on the surface. Now, the emotionally focused therapy has the most research in terms of longevity. So if a couple addresses their core needs, their core longing, if they address to what's underneath. So if we're fighting about one thing, and then we can focus on what you actually need underneath. What are you longing for? What do you want to explain to the other person? Because if we're fighting about dishes, we're not just fighting about dishes. We're talking about, I feel alone, I feel unsupported, I feel unheard. Those are the things that we need to address as a couple so that these issues don't keep coming up in different scenarios. If we just address the idea of washing dishes and the other person does come in and wash the dishes and the person is still feeling alone, she or he is still feeling unsupported, they will then feel that emotion in a different scenario. If someone is anxiously attached, which means they have trouble trusting the other person, that trust may come out as in they don't trust them with the opposite sex. They don't trust them with taking care of things. They don't trust them that they will have their back. So they keep asking these questions or they keep creating these scenarios where it turns into conflict because at the core of it, they don't have trust in people, not just the person they're with, but majority of the time, they don't have trust in people. They don't fundamentally believe that people are good. And this is very often brought up in childhood. This is the scenario of not trusting people is developed in childhood. So this is where emotional focused therapy comes in, where we deal with the stuff that our core beliefs, our blueprints, and we bring them up to the surface so we can deal with them together as a team. And we no longer see those issues come up in arguments and we don't see them come up in the relationship. And this is why emotionally focused therapy long term has the most success, because we do need to focus on what's happening right in front of us so that we can get some wins in our relationship, so we can get some peace in our relationship. But we also need to focus on what's happening at the core, because if we don't, that issue will keep coming up. We can deal with kind of like plugging a hole in a ship. We can try and plug holes in a ship, but if someone is going behind us and drilling a hole every time we plug one in, that's going to sink the boat eventually. So rather than trying to plug holes, which is a good tactic, we also need to deal with the person who keeps drilling the holes in our ship.